them in a narrow band. That one, of course, it's human-made. That's the Pioneer 10 spacecraft. You may remember that. That was sent out to photograph the outer solar system. It had a little plaque on it with a nude couple waving like this. Somebody at the University of Washington, in fact, told me, "SHOSTAK, that upraised hand is the universal symbol of war." I hope not. Anyhow, you can see this signal. So that's what we look for. It's also, maybe those of you who are still conscious in the audience may notice that that signal is drifting toward lower frequencies slowly. That's because of the rotation of the Earth. The rotation of the Earth introduces a changing Doppler shift in the frequency. So for those of you who know what that's about, that becomes a very interesting discriminant, a very interesting characteristic of the signal we can use to sort out human-made interference in ET. Okay, so that's what we look for. And this is what it looks like. This is down in Puerto Rico. This is a self-portrait. It's very boring doing this work, so I usually set up my camera and make self-portraits for my mom. This was an interesting photo in that this was one of the many false alarms we've had. This was the most impressive of the false alarms. As you can see, 1997, I made this photo at 3:30 in the morning, and we were sitting there watching the screens because we had found a signal that looked like the real deal. It looked like this was it. And I was very nervous. I remember I couldn't sit down. I was nervous because I had planned out my whole week, right? I had dinners and I had meetings and whatever, and now suddenly my whole week was going to be ruined because we'd found ET. In fact, it was going to be more than a week. In fact, I saw no end to the ruination. But I was very, very nervous, and I kept waiting for the government to call up. The government never called up. Even the mayor of Mountain View, whom I knew personally, the city where we are, he didn't call up. Nobody called up. The only person that called up was a reporter, Bill Broad, a science reporter from the New York Times. And he did call me at 9:30 in the morning. And I was kind of sleepy, but he said, "So what about that signal?" He already knew about it. The media know about it right away. There's no secrecy, no secrecy. As it turned out, this was a European research satellite and not ET. Once again, we were fooled by the Europeans, so there you go. All right, when do we find them? I get that question all the time. People ask, all right, you guys have been doing this for a while, so when are you going to find them? Well, I mean, we don't know. Of course we don't know. That's like asking Chris Columbus, 2 weeks out of Spain, all right, Chris, when are you going to discover a new continent? Right? And Chris would say, well, look, you know, today there was just water around the ship, and yesterday the ship was surrounded by water, and the day before that it was pretty aqueous around the ship, right? And he's going to say that every day for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then suddenly one day he finds something. Now, we can't guarantee that that will